Currently in Houston, we are seeing a higher profile shift in U.S. immigration and customs enforcement, also known as ICE activity, for multiple arrests at immigration courtrooms to early morning residential detentions. Local advocates say this enforcement presence is stretching far beyond the usual sweep. This week, an incident unfolded when masked enforcement agents pursued a father and his 16-year-old son near South Gessner and Beechnut, eventually detaining them inside a restaurant supply store. The teen says he was beaten and choked and subjected to racial slurs. The father remains in federal custody while the son, a U.S. citizen, was released after a few hours. With concern mounting in immigrant communities across Harris County and new data showing that the share of arrests involving immigrants without criminal charges or convictions has nearly quintupled in the Houston area, according to Axios Houston. And we are joined now by Cesar Espinosa of FIEL Houston. And we will be joined shortly by Tony Payan, the Director Center for the U.S. and Mexico at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. Cesar, welcome back to Hello Houston. If you would like to join the conversation, you can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
Cesar, I guess I'd like to start with the story that Celeste was just talking about, the father and son team that were detained. And I think for a lot of people, that moment, because of the attention it's gotten on the news, was quite an eye-opening experience. Your reaction to what happened there and your understanding of the situation?
Well, number one, thank you so much for having me. Number two, I think it's the unfortunate part about this is that this has been happening in other parts of the country, but this is the first instance where it happens right in our backyard or in our city, inside of our house, rather. And so I think that it's very eye-opening because when as it gets closer, people begin to see that it's a real thing, even though we've been saying that it's been a real thing for the last, since this administration took over. But it's unfortunate, and now we unfortunately do have a sad update. Is that Dad has been deported back to Mexico, unfortunately, after he was intimidated into or threatened with having charges filed on this minor if he did not sign his deportation order.
Wow. I guess for me, what is getting, and I know there's so many different areas of this that could be disturbing, problematic, and I don't mean to lessen any of those by asking this question. When I'm watching these videos now and I see these things happening, my concern is how do we know who these people are that are coming after our fellow citizens or immigrants or undocumented, whoever they are? They don't really seem to have identification. Oftentimes they're hiding their faces. They're coming in unmarked vehicles. How do you know that these folks are actually law enforcement, regardless if you agree with what law enforcement is doing? How do you even know they're really part of it and not just vigilante groups?
Well, that's the thing. We don't know. In a couple of months ago when we were doing court observing here in the immigration courts, one of the very telling things that we saw there is officers dressed in blue jeans and T-shirts like if they were going to a Sunday barbecue. No badges, no nothing. And when they apprehend somebody, they start grabbing them, but they never identified themselves as EOR or ICE or CBP or anything like that. The other very disturbing part of this is that the federal government has contracted with some bounty hunters in order to serve as ICE agents. And I think that's the biggest thing is we don't know who these folks are. And if you ask anybody and somebody starts breaking your window, I think many people would have reacted this way.
Yeah. Now, Cesar, I do want to go back to what you were talking about right before this question, which was the father and son. The father has been deported. And I guess my question would be, was he undocumented?
Yes, the father was undocumented. He had been living here in the Houston area for the last 25 years. For the last 25 years. Okay. I was curious because I think that a lot of this is so difficult because, and I understand that, there's so much nuance, right? And nobody wants to see a family be torn apart. But I think that one of the issues that continues to come forward is that people say that the law is black and white and that if somebody is undocumented, that they are breaking the law. What do you have to say to that? Well, I mean, number one, these folks, like myself, I've been living here in Houston for the last 33 years. I've contributed, bought homes, bought cars here, have my family here. us immigrants have been contributing a very long time. And when it comes to contributing, we don't get questioned about our status. But when it comes to getting anything in return, then that's when we're questioned about our status. The other thing that still behooves me is when people ask us, why did you wait 33 years to get your papers? And the story is very long and complicated. Immigration law is not black and white. It is very gray, yellow, blue, green, whatever but it's not black and white. There's a lot of nuances that go into this that can prevent some people from getting status, or can take 33 years, like in my case.
And are we seeing right now, for example, people that potentially are have been approved and are waiting for visas or being waited for extensions? Are people still receiving those, or has that been also put at a standstill?
That people have still been receiving those, unfortunately, because of the government shutdown and other things. They've been a little bit slower, but for the most part, there's some people that have been detained here in Houston and other parts of the country that could very well already have had a green card, but because of one thing or another, haven't been given those interviews.
I'm sure it's fearful to a lot of people in the community who are trying to go through the proper channels to get themselves, quote unquote, legal, and they go to immigration courts. And then we've seen the videos of them being pulled out from immigration court while they're trying to do the right thing. But back to Celeste's question, if they're here undocumented, I hate this term, isn't it fair game? They are here undocumented. That is, as Celeste said, the law. It's not pretty the way we're seeing it, but do we have a legal leg to stand on against it?
So, this is one of the things that we've been talking about for over 2 decades is I don't think people want to be undocumented. I've been asked by elected officials, I'm not going to name them here, but they're like, why do you choose to be illegal? And I was probably like 20 years old, so I had a choice words for that woman, but I didn't say anything. But I don't think we want to be here regularly. The other thing that I get told a lot is, well, you hate America so much. No, I fought for 33 years to stay here. I kind of like it here. This is a good place.
Right.
I still believe that there's good people and that the America is a great nation. Unfortunately, the people that are in power right now are not reflecting that and not reflecting the part where we still need immigrant labor to do many, many things. And this is going to hurt Houston's economy. It's going to hurt the way people see us. We have a huge major event coming with all the visas and things like that are now getting denied. It's going to affect the World Cup here next year. So there's a lot of money to be lost, and there's a lot of things that would be affected if we don't have some sort of immigration reform yesterday.
Yeah. Curious to go back to the stories we're talking about, the situation people are finding themselves. What do you recommend to individuals in your community if they are confronted by ICE officers or, as you said, bounty hunter, vigilante groups? How should they react? What is the safest way to get through that process? Is there a safe path?
Number one is to remain calm. And I think that's in a lot of these videos that we see, that's part of the thing. People panic and would do right. I mean, you don't know who these people are. They start banging on your windows. In this particular case, they rammed the car 3 times, which we are going to release that video in the next coming days of where ICE is trying to flip this car over. And so I think it's a very scary situation, but we plead with people to remain calm because we've seen in other states and other parts of the country where if folks react in this manner, then they get charged with potentially hurting a federal officer and things of that nature.
Which I know Ernie asked a similar question, but just to clarify, are ICE agents required to identify themselves? So if an ICE agent comes up to you and says you are under arrest or I'd like to see your papers, do they have to show any kind of badge, any type of official document for themselves?
Okay, so we have like 3.5 hours left on this segment, right? That's a very complex question. It's also a question that a lot of constitutional attorneys have a hard time answering. But as it stands right now, and with the executive orders that have been passed and the directives that ICE agents have gotten, it's not really clear. So the answer right now is maybe, maybe not. The other thing is warrants. People are not having a due process. They're not being presented a warrant on paper, and they excuse themselves by saying, well, it's because we don't get anything on paper, we get it digital. When we ask for the digital copy, they're like, well, we can't send it to you because we can't send anything to somebody that's not a federal person. So there's a lot of gray area in all of this. It's not night and day. And I think until it affects people, people will start feeling it. And in this case of the 16-year-old, we're talking about a 16-year-old U.S. citizen child who they stole his phone. On the video that we released earlier this week, you can see when he tells the ICE agents, I have everything on video. An ICE agent goes into his pocket and steals his phone. And when you hear where we found the phone, that's going to be another shocker.
Do you want to tell us?
Somebody sold his phone.
Sold his phone.
Yes.
Huh. Let me ask it from this point of view. If someone's listening right now and they are undocumented, or they were the dreamer brought here as a child and they never had the proper paperwork and stuff, what do you recommend they do right now to avoid or to lessen anything that could happen? Because I think there's got to be fear of going official routes right now for fear that they're going to be picked up anyway. But what do you recommend to lessen the burden?
The best recommendation right now for anybody is to talk to a competent, honest attorney and get multiple opinions, because that's another subject for another segment of all the scammers and people that we see now taking advantage of this very vulnerable population. The second thing is to, if they have identifying documents, to carry them with them at all times. And number three is to try to find resources, know your rights, know your constitutional rights, and talk to your friends and families. One of the things, we don't think about these things, but these are real things. One of the things that I encourage everybody is to memorize at least one phone number, because we're so used to smartphones right now that we've had people in detention that take weeks to call their family members just because they didn't remember anybody's number.
Yeah. Now, we did get a text that says, please emphasize civil violation versus criminal charge. Simple unlawful presence in the U.S. or overstaying a visa or civil offenses, not criminal ones. Not criminal. And that is something we have discussed here on Hello Houston, that the legality and the differences. Cesar, would you like to answer that?
So being in the country undocumented is a civil offense. It's not a criminal offense, although this administration is doing everything in their power to try to criminalize it or make it seem like it is a criminal offense.
Yeah. It's very disturbing, but hopefully we can find our way through this.
That's right. Cesar Espinosa is with FIEL. Cesar, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having us.